So about a few months ago, I went on a run and like a
Yes.
6K run, and I decided to nasal breathe. I don't know why.
Yes.
I'd heard it somewhere. I don't know, but I did it, and it was interesting. It took some discipline, but
Yes.
I was doing it, and I probably was playing around with my CO2 threshold. Like, so I probably
Yes.
felt, but I was like, all right, and I'm a little competitive, so I
Yes.
was just like, I'm gonna see how long I can do this, and it worked for like a good 5K. But towards the end of my run in the Hampstead Heath, there's this serious hill that comes up. at the
Sure.
end. And like I always like going really hard on that hill, and I get to the very top, and I mean I am totally done.
Sure.
I mean I'm so oxygen deprived or whatever it is
Yes.
that I'm breathing through my mouth, and I had to go
Yes.
to my mouth breath.
Yes.
And so my question to you is then, is there a time when I should mouth breathe? Because what if I got to get up that hill? Like what if I got to save the world or something like that?
Sure. Yes.
Or did I do something wrong in the whole thing?
No, it's, I think even the fact that you spent a lot of time breathing through your nose is absolutely beneficial. Normally the switching point from nasal to mouth breathing happens at about 35 to 40 litres.
Is it from aerobic to anaerobic by definition?
Not necessarily, no. It's happening more so that the CO2, it's the CO2 that's driving the switch, because it's the increase of the CO2 in the blood that the body can't get rid of the CO2 efficiently through the nose because of the resistance.
Right.
That's not a bad thing, because what we want to do is we want to expose the body to that higher CO2. So I would say that you're absolutely fine doing, now you can change your breathing patterns to increase alveolar ventilation. If you go for a run, what's more efficient? Is it fast, shallow breathing, or is it slow, deep breathing? Slow, deep breathing is absolutely so much more advantageous. And the reason being, every breath that we take, not all of that air gets into the small air sacs in the lungs. Proportionately, 150 ml of air is going to stay in the nose, in the throat, in the trachea, in the bronchi, and the bronchioles. So every breath that you take into the body, a certain volume of that air will never reach the small air sacs. Now, if we can reduce the respiratory rate, we are not losing so much air in dead space because we're not breathing as many breaths per minute. Like, to give you the maths, if you were taking 12 breaths, just sitting at rest, 12 breaths a minute, and if each breath is a half litre, which is normal, 12 breaths with a half litre, that's giving us 6 litres of air per minute. Now, of that 6 litres per minute, how much gets into the small air sacs? Because that's ultimately where we want to bring the oxygen. It's 4.2 litres when I subtract dead space. If I change the respiratory rate from 12 breaths per minute down to 6, we can increase alveolar ventilation from 4.2 to 5.1. We can increase oxygen delivery to the ventilation. We can increase the amount of air that's getting into the small air sacs by 20%. Now, I remember going a little bit, I had a woman with chronic heart failure, and I had her pulse oximeter on, and I was having her just walk in a room, and her blood oxygen saturation was dropping down to 92%. I said, okay, this is not good. You shouldn't desaturate so easy during physical exercise. I had her put her hands, lower 2 ribs, and I asked, okay, now as you breathe in, I'd like your ribs just gently moving outwards, and as you breathe out, the lower 2 ribs gently moving in. And then I started having her slow down her breathing. So she was taking fuller breaths, but less of them, because I wanted to increase ventilation perfusion, and I also wanted to increase gas exchange from the lungs to the blood. Her blood oxygen saturation increased from 92% to 96%. There's papers written about this at altitude. If you're going up into the mountains, somebody says climbing Kilimanjaro, how can you breathe to optimize your breathing efficiency? Slow breaths, in other words, don't take so many breaths per minute, but make the size of each breath bigger. Now, at the same time, don't over-breathe, because when we're talking about breathing, it's not just about the respiratory rate. It's not just about the tidal volume. It's about the respiratory rate multiplied by the tidal volume. So the respiratory rate is the number of breaths per minute. The tidal volume is the size of each breath. We're interested in the minute ventilation. So it's the minute ventilation is the amount of air that you're taking into your body. So this is why I would say, and your researcher, we were discussing questions, and I wrote in the stupidity of breathing through your mouth during physical exercise. And here it is in a nutshell. Number 1, reduced oxygen uptake in the blood. Number 2, reduced oxygen delivery to the tissues. Number 3, trauma to the airways. Number 4, not efficient. Number 5, if you continuously nasal breathe for a period of time, you'll improve your respiratory muscle strength, your breathing muscles are less likely to fatigue, and also your body is adapting to tolerate higher CO2, your breathing and your degree of breathlessness is reduced. No comparison.
What if I'm in the fight of my life and I need to get as much oxygen into my system?
The fight of your life, we want to get your breathing right before you go into that fight.
Okay.
If you have an individual, and there's 2 ways of doing it. One is get your everyday breathing right. That the Bolt score, and a Bolt score is a measurement of breathlessness, and this measurement has been used since 1975, even up until 2017. And basically it involves getting a watch or a stopwatch or whatever, take a normal breath in through your nose, a normal breath out, you pinch the nose, and you time it in seconds. How long does it take until you feel the first definite desire to breathe, or the first involuntary contractions of your breathing muscles? It's not the length of time that you can hold your breath for.
Right. Is this the breath hold test?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to have 25 seconds.
Okay.
If you're less than 25 seconds, the individual then is more likely to be dysfunctional breathing patterns.
Okay.
So we need a watch with a second hand.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to get one. I'll get one right now. Let me see if I got the clock here. I want to try this because I don't have any idea. So, but you got to be honest, right?
Yeah, so I will keep an eye on your diaphragm movements, and I will keep an eye on the muscles in the throat.
So I can't cheat, huh? Okay, so I got the clock right here. I'm going to hit the start.
And the other thing is, when you're measuring the Bolt score, never care what it's about, because sometimes people put pressure on themselves and their Bolt score drops. Okay. So it's all about relaxing into it. So no pressure, Brian.
No pressure, Brian. Yeah, right. Okay, so I'm going to breathe through my nose.
So you take a normal breath in through your nose, a normal breath out through your nose. You pinch your nose with your fingers, and you're timing it in seconds. How long does it take for your brain to react to send a signal to breathe? So you feel it as the first definite desire to breathe.
And then I should just breathe whenever that happens.
Your breathing should be normal at the end.
Okay.
So your breath at the end, when you resume breathing, should be fairly normal.
Okay. So I'll hit start when I've exhaled, and then whenever I just inhale whenever I feel the need.
Yeah, the first definite desire.
The first definite desire.
Yeah. So you may feel that, like, you can think of the brain is monitoring the gas CO2 in the blood. Okay. And as CO2 is increasing to some point, the brain sends an immediate message via the phrenic nerve to the diaphragm, and the diaphragm can contract. So you're waiting almost until you feel the first involuntary movement of the breathing muscles.